All right, all right. Well, I'm going to give it 2 more minutes so that we can be respectful of everybody's time as well. Um, I was fortunate enough to be able to steal Jim away from all of his chaotic busyness over there and bring him in for about an hour to be able to talk to you guys. I don't know if either one of the two of you have had the pleasure of meeting Jim yet, outside of the creative deal underwriting Zooms that he runs, but he is one of the superpowers here. My younger brother.
Okay.
um,
Is that
what,
because his
what
beard's shorter? Like, how does that work?
No, he's one of the extremely beneficial superpowers that we have here on the team that makes us the dynamic four that we are. Um, I've been saying for quite a while I wanted to get him in here on a Zoom and talk to some people. Luckily, this will be kind of recorded and going up on YouTube for those that haven't been able to make it. Um, you guys have heard from me for, I mean, geez, well, we're going on 3 months now. Yeah, we're going on month three, where I've been talking a lot about like the team dynamic and um, you know, moving yourself more into like a leadership position. So being able to have Jim come on, kind of talk to you guys a little bit more from his perspective of where he started, because we all started pretty much in the same place. We cut from a similar cloth, has gone through teams, gone through partnerships. We've all ended up where we are, and I just wanted to hear you guys, or give you guys the chance to be able to hear it from another perspective tonight. So I'll leave the floor over to my new best friend. No, one of my really good friends. You might not know, but I've actually known Jim for quite a while. Mr. Jim LaBella.
Yes, we have known each other for quite a while. I definitely have met Sam. I actually just got off a call last night with Sam. He is a phenomenal dude. I enjoy talking to him, and I hope that we can continue our relationship. Um, we're
Love it.
kind of
So I don't have to cancel my call with him tomorrow.
no, I definitely would
I'm
take
kidding.
full advantage of that. He's fun to talk to. Timothy, it's nice to meet you. Do you go by Tim or Timothy? Either one.
Yeah, either one. I go with Timothy
Okay.
just because people think it's Jim if they hear it for the first time, and I'll get people calling me Jim for a month,
Right. Right.
and I'm
Um,
just not that lucky, so I don't want to pretend.
Um, yeah, so a little bit of background on me is I have kind of been in and out of real estate for a really long time. I am by trade a pharmacist, and where some of my leadership experience in the past has come from has been within the pharmacy industry. I was basically a C-suite executive for a large mail order company, and that was really an interesting paradigm of kind of how that transgressed with getting into entrepreneurship and also with having that experience in the corporate world with leadership and then transferring that over and the differences that occurred and some of the similarities, but a lot of the differences that occurred between the corporate world and being an entrepreneur and being part of a team, that where leadership had kind of had to take a little bit of a different road. It had to have some relearning for sure of things, and it didn't parlay over as easy as I thought it would be. So a little bit more about my background is I had started investing in real estate after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in like pretty much everybody else back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I started buying properties out here in Phoenix, and I thought I was on my way. And I got my clock cleaned when the market collapsed, and it put a bad taste in my mouth for about 15 years. And so I completely got myself, out of it. I didn't really do anything. I had one or two other rentals in the meantime, but I kind of came back full circle. And when I realized that, the corporate world wasn't necessarily for me, that's not where I wanted to live out my days. And, I started, I'd always had a passion for it. So, kind of coming back into the real estate, I did what everybody else does is I started doing wholesaling, because I thought that was the quickest pathway to make some money. And it's I'm sure that everybody else here has gone through that. It's a grind. It is. It's a grind, and it's not something that I had all of the skill sets to be able to do. I was really good at generating leads. I was really good at analyzing them, which is pretty much what I do now for our team. But I was never a closer. I was never very good at, speaking to someone and closing the sale. And so, I had multiple partners. I've had multiple partners over the past few years that, haven't worked out. There was one reason or another that, they might have had some skill sets that were not in my repertoire. It was not in my tool belt. But there was no fundamental being congruent within the team. And that's a really important factor of when you're building your team and you're finding the right people to fit in the right seats on the bus, is making sure that you might have different skill sets, but you really need to have where your common goal and your vision is the same. And everybody's got to be on the right bus and the right seat, but that bus has to be going in the same place that you would, you're all wanting to go. You can't have people veering off left or right and not being all going to the same destination. And another part of that is you really need to have on your team where everybody's core values are aligned together. And that's probably one of the most important things that I think with building a team, is that everybody's core values align, number one. Number two is everybody truly has them. I've had partners that, will kind of be superficial, is they say that that's their values and that's their core, and they truly aren't. And that's something that I think that we have found in each other with a part of our team that has been, a monumental difference. I mean, it's been like night and day. Is everybody shares the same core values. And I don't know if James has ever shared this with you, but we've gone through kind of questionnaires and doing some kind of psychology behind where our business practices are and where our mindsets are. And we all aligned. We all were grouped in the same area, and all the questions were pretty much answered. Yes, it was. It was a fun process. So all of our beliefs and our mindset all aligned perfectly. And the really cool thing about our team is we have superpowers or strengths in all the different areas, and nobody has. Some people have a little bit of a blend, like they can move into one area. Like James is very good with being an integrator, and that obviously comes with an analytical mind. So he can get really quickly into my work where I'm doing underwriting and valuing and doing the number side of things. But we do have where people can cross over, but we really truly have experts in one area, and we're able to leverage those superpowers. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember like the Wonder Twins. It's kind of like that, where everybody's able to come together and put all of our superpowers together to carry our business forward. So it's it's a good.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing. And that was to drive home and hit on the fact that with the questionnaires, how we were also similar in, our own personal core values, that we've been able to adopt that almost immediately into the business and run with that as our business core values. We actually we skipped a whole what do you call it? We skipped a whole exercise on that just because of how similar the answers were. Um, but also same thing to the fact where you're talking about having everybody with their superpowers, and don't sell yourself short either with the talking about me being able to come over and on the integrator side, because you do a phenomenal job, even with the leadership side and even some of the visionary stuff that goes on, and those tendencies and the conversations that we get to have. But I mean, even like we have, Haley, who does exactly what she does and gets everybody in here, gets the spotlight going, gets, she drives the deals into the pipeline, drives relationships over. And then Jeff, amazing, wonderful individual. And oh, I just kind of sound like a political figure there. Sorry, I went that way for a second. But one of the things that I saw in him, and I can't wait to get him in here as well sometime, is that we all kind of like we see what our strengths are, and we feel as though that we have to like succumb to that role, and that's what we have to do, even if we have a shimmer of a strength there. And being able to actually jump on to calls with him and seeing how he navigates conversations. I've spent so long working on communication and having conversations with people, and I saw how naturally it came to him, and I'm like, dude, like right from the gate, just how it sits natural with him, he's going to surpass me. And that's you and I had that conversation, and we're like, we need to create that seat, and that's where we need to have them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that all of these pieces have fit really well together. And that's almost in this business, it's almost what you need to do is to have prior relationships and partnerships, just to see, to truly find what you're actually looking for. When you first start kicking the door open in this business, you're not exactly sure, number one, what the hell you're doing, but you're also not exactly sure what you need. And I think that comes with a little bit of seasoning. It's not years and years of needing that seasoning, but there definitely is a seasoning period where you're trying to figure out just exactly where you fit in, but also like, what are you looking for in another partner? What are you looking for on your team and truly looking for that you kind of, it modifies and it adapts and it gets changed, as time goes on. But, I really think that everything that I was wanting and needing in other partners has really come together. And, that is probably something to state is you really need to know what you're actually looking for as well, in order to find the partners that are going to fit those right seats on the bus. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, 100%. So
it's definitely been a learning experience, but it's also been really rewarding. And it's a comfort factor that I know that I have three other partners that I can rely on for pretty much anything. I mean, you guys have become not only friends and business partners, but an extension of my family in some respects. We share things. We're so close knit as a team. We share things that are like going on in our lives, and that's really the ultimate business relationship, is that where you can kind of cross that bridge into those personal aspects as well as business.
Oh, I definitely appreciate that. No, same to the introduction. At this point, I almost like you're close enough to be my brother at this point. Really, I mean,
100%.
when you really cut down to it and what we get to talk about, even outside of just regular business meetings. Now, and one of the things that I love about not only how, like, kind of how fast we're moving with a lot of the stuff that we are doing, and even some of the conversations that we've been able to have with people externally, and to be able to talk about making big, potentially big moves coming up. How how has that kind of gone through your mind? Like let's take a look back. Like we've been, I mean, we're going on what, 3, 6, 7 months, 7 months now
Mhm.
since we've officially said, all right, guys, we're gonna full merge into this. And then like 3 months in, I remember you and I had a conversation when I found like this motto. It was like Christmas Eve. I stayed up to like 4 in the morning and I did this deep dive, and we completely broke the business down again, like basically to bare bones, and really started implementing and putting like a framework in place for what's going to set us up for the future. Um, Once we started like really driving in on gaining that clarity, not only what we wanted to do as individuals, but understanding before putting all of the other pieces in place, that 10 years, what does it look like for us? What is the end of this year look like for us, and bringing it all the way down to being able to understand how we need to maneuver, like even these next couple weeks. And I mean, heck, even the action steps that we have to take tomorrow. Um, but how do you feel as though that differs? And does it allow you to take a little bit more of a breath these days than it has the last couple years of trying to kind of work through all of this and gain some of that understanding and insight?
100%, 100%. And there's a lot of layers to that, as the reason that that's allowed me to, kind of breathe a sigh of relief. It's not that I'm breathing a sigh of relief that I have other people doing, other things.
Oh, dude,
But
100%.
there is that comfort factor that I do have capable partners that are there to, understand what our big vision is, understand where the marching steps are, and they're able to come in and fill their part of the role. That is probably, I'll bring up that point now, is that's probably one of the biggest differences with being in the corporate world to the entrepreneurial world, is because when you are an entrepreneur, you're wearing a lot of hats and you have a lot of pressure on you and you are doing everything. And that is very different than the corporate world, where you have set lanes pretty much, that these are your responsibilities. These are the people you're leading. And with bringing that back in and finding a team that is number one capable, everybody's on board with everything that you just said, with where our KPI is going to be, where our what are our goals, where are we looking to reach in 1 year, 5 years. We've broken it down all the way out, and then short term as well. But that was probably one of the biggest things between the corporate world, is bringing in that little bit of that element that everybody's kind of got their own lane now. And we have people that are responsible for certain tracks in the business, and I think that has been huge with our successes, number one. But number two, it's also been a big factor for everybody, with kind of that comfort factor and that release, that you can be, you're part of a team where other people are in this engine, and those are other parts that are moving in it. And that is a little bit of a similarity between the corporate world and becoming part of a team in an entrepreneurial aspect that has multiple members. I think that was probably, honestly, James, that was probably one of the most important things that we have done so far, of planning that out and really putting the roadmap, the pen and paper, and understanding where we're going to be at certain timeframes, who's going to be responsible for what, and really strip the business apart. I think that's probably one of the best things that we've ever done.
It's been interesting for sure, because I've noticed, like, and I've even said it on these Zooms, like I've had a lot of proud moments of you too. With because it does it, like, it changes the way that we deal with situations that come up, and how we now, even the failures, like it just completely changes how we navigate, deal with that. Um, but I don't know, it does something to the way that not only collectively but individually, like, we make decisions. And we've had those moments to where it's like, man, missed opportunity, because we waited a week or 2 weeks to finally decide to pull the trigger, and then we have a lost opportunity. And being able to kind of come back to it, to roots, and like, hey, like, when we did that, did we operate you know in according to the values? Did we operate in according to the goals that we're trying to set? No, we didn't. Well, according to our goals and our values, like, we need to be making a decision within a couple hours. And I think, as you were the first one to actually say it while we were in a meeting, you're like, guys, we need to make a decision on this before the end of the meeting. And we had just brought it up, so it was fresh in the mind. And I almost feel like where we were in the beginning when we started, it would have gone to a part two, but because of doing everything that we've done, like, we walked out of that meeting. It was half an hour at that point, because we were almost halfway through the meeting, and we walked out with a decision, and we made it, and we rode forward with it. Um, and that's, I wanted to bring back to a point that you said earlier in the spiel too about the corporate world and being an entrepreneurial ship and like the difference between wearing all the hats. Uh, there was a line that I heard in a book that I was reading this morning, called it's called Do Epic Shit, and a couple of really good lines in that book. I'll point out, but it said that in the corporate world or in the W-2, that's not my job is stability, but as an entrepreneur, that's not my job equals dead.
Yep.
And I thought it was a pretty powerful line, if you
It
really
is.
strip it apart.
It is, and that is extremely true. You know, you get that a lot, and you know where I was kind of going with what my previous statement was is, you know, we have other people in the business to fill some of these roles and take care of the things that I might have been taking care of, you know, before as a solopreneur. And you know, that's a huge relief factor. But that is a very distinct thing is when you start getting that brought back into your business and you have other partners that you can depend on that have they have their lane, is you can't lose sight of that as well, of just being like, hey, you know what, I'm the underwriter and I don't do anything but that, so you know, don't bother me with anything. And it gets very corporate at that point where they're in that mindset, and you know that you're still an entrepreneur at heart. You know, no matter if you have 4 people in there, 10 people, whatever you have in your business, you're still an entrepreneur at this point at heart and at the core. And bringing in that mentality, I really like that quote. You know, bringing in that mentality and bringing it back in there is a death sentence. It is. It truly is a death sentence to a business, because everybody is just getting whittled into their own little place and they're not expanding out where they, you know, are hopping in to help and do those other things. And you know, that's one of the things that I love the most about the 4 of us is everybody has their superpower, everybody has their strengths that they're at their core, but there's never any hesitation from when somebody needs help that to jump into that other side, even if it's something that I am not good at and I suck at. I'm willing to step in and help out, and everybody else is too, you know, and, you know, doing things that I do that come second nature. And I really love that about our team, but that's a phenomenal quote. I'm gonna have to, where'd you get that from?
I'll shoot you the link to it because it's free right now on Audible, but it's called Do Epic Shit.
Okay.
Is the title of the book. Oh, I forgot this Alexa had Jasper's bedtime programmed in to yell at him. Sorry. And it's right next to my mic. Oh, geez, my train of thought there now. No, that's one of those, even with what you had brought up about like how we're without hesitation, we're able to jump in and support each other, you know, within the team. Because I've spoken to everybody here before how we've broken down like we have the 3 core processes of our business and we have leading seats in each one of those. But we have it in a way so that it's not like, yes, we're all busy and we're all working, you know, some have W-2s, some are working on, you know, throughout the day, like morning to night. But whenever something comes up, like one of the things that I've never heard from anybody on the team is I don't have time. Like I don't have time to do that. And I feel like that's something that's extremely important to bring up because as a solopreneur, so they say, or even sometimes when you first get into a partnership. And I almost feel like it was kind of like that before we did the breakdown and we started like really getting clear with everything and getting everything in tune and aligned with what we were doing. It was almost kind of like that we did have conversations about like splitting up time and being able to schedule this for half for this person, half for that person. And I feel like since we've done this, there's been that shift towards like, yeah, we're definitely busy, but it's not like we don't have time to be able to support each other.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, the other thing that I really love about the components of our team is, taking ownership, and that's a big part of being part of a team, is taking that self ownership. And I'd be the first one to raise my hand and be like, all right, guys, I let you down. I screwed up. I didn't get to this. I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't have time. My bandwidth was a little bit, tight this week, but I'm not going to use the excuse I just didn't have time. I dropped the ball. It's on me. I take it. And that spreads across the team, is everybody will take ownership and accountability for their primary role. And when they fail, they will be the first to raise their hand and say that. And now none of us are on this team are, going to come in and beat somebody down if they have dropped the ball. People make mistakes. We're human, right? But that's another aspect of being a leader on the team, and also being within a team, is taking ownership and responsibility for your actions or lack of actions. Is you got to be the first one to raise your hand and just say, yep, that was my error. I'm sorry, and not point the finger and be, James didn't do X, Y, and Z. Is I will always take ownership of that first, and see where my impact was onto the team that might have caused the other person to drop the ball. And that's another thing that just to reiterate, that's another thing that I really love about our team, is everybody is accountable and everybody's willing to take responsibility.
100%. It makes it so much easier to have a group of leaders as well. One of those things that I've talked about before, actually, is one of the Zooms where I broke down like the post and the description that we put together for an operations manager, and then I went a little further into that conversation about, you know, if most people are looking for unicorns, and they're called unicorns because unicorns don't exist. And what it really takes to be a true leader. And if you have an A player that comes in and was it 11 months and 3 weeks out of the year, they're playing at like A plus plus status. And then you have 1 week out of the year to where maybe they're a B minus to a B plus. Like, you're not going to sit there and you're going to say to that person, like, all right, you're out, like, you're done, like, that's it. Right from the beginning, with having the understanding with how we are meant to operate, dictating it, actually having it written down so we see it, trust, integrity, collaboration. I feel like anytime anything has come up within our team, and this is really important, it doesn't matter if it's your leadership team. So if you have your partners, it doesn't matter if it's direct reports. It doesn't matter if it's a VA. Every single time we've had to take accountability for ourselves, or something got brought up and the accountability had to be taken or given, everybody else immediately chimed in and said, okay, well, where can I support you to make sure that we get back on track and make sure that this doesn't happen again? And it's not like a stern, like, dude, don't ever do this again. It's like, okay, well, where can we leverage each other to kind of get this thing going again?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's very important on a healthy functioning team. Is it won't be that browbeating. It will be okay, we appreciate you, taking responsibility on that. Is there something that we did that might have caused you to not get the information so that you dropped the ball? But it's never a punishment within the team. And I think that's really healthy and it's important. It's okay. It happened. We're going to move forward. We're not going to, repeat the same mistakes, but how can we support you so that something like this doesn't fall through the cracks again, or something like this, doesn't occur in the future? Is there something that I can do to take that off your plate? That's a very common phrase in our meetings. Is there something that I can do to take this off your plate, so that you can focus on, whatever the particular thing is? And I think that that's really important with a healthy team, is to be able to have that dependability of other people. Is they're willing to carve a little bit out of their time so that they can make sure that everything is functioning and moving along smoothly, to be able to get the person that might be working on that particular project the bandwidth to be able to, to focus on it and to get us back on track. But I really love that about our team, is that other aspect of always willing to pitch in and course correct and get things fixed, but be part of the solution rather than the problem instead of just finger pointing.
100%. I know it's crazy to think about it. It's crazy to think that all of us have gone, you know, at minimum, what, 3.5, 4 years of trying to figure a lot of this stuff out and learning these hard lessons and going through the trials and tribulations. I know I've attempted, I think, 3 different teams, to put together in the wrong. It was the wrong business for me, maybe not at the time, but regardless, it was the wrong business. Then attempt. I mean, we were speaking at one point to where I was in a prospective partnership right before us, and that blew up really quick, like really quick, and just the way that it went, like one thing after another just kind of lined up. And that first 3 months is like, okay, these 3 months went by really quick. And then as soon as we started hitting on that foundation, like there was a huge shift and a huge change as we started like really building that out. Um, I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but I almost feel like if I had done the same thing in earlier teams that I have attempted to put together, I mean, even in wholesaling, I almost feel like I probably would have been a lot more successful than I actually was, at least with one of those 3 teams. Um, and I don't want to turn it into an interview or anything like that, but how do you feel the difference has been since like we really did start actually laying down that foundation and started getting clear and started putting those things on paper and having those active discussions and coming to a final decision like this is it. This is how we're going to navigate. This is how we're going to move. This is what the business needs to look like. This is what the seats need to look like. Um, this is who we need to be looking for. Because we've even talked about things later on. Like we're talking about who we need to hire later on to handle financial stuff for us already.
Mhm.
But I feel like had we not started doing that, we wouldn't even have had the opportunity to have that conversation yet.
Yeah. And, to answer that question simply, uh, 100%, I feel the same way. I think that a lot of other teams, you tend to talk about this shit, but you never implement it. And finding the partnership with, like, especially you, and just being so connected in our mindset with that kind of mentality, was one of the game changers. I agree. I probably would have been more successful with other teams, but we never implemented that shit. There was never anybody else at the table that was wanting to do anything besides talk about it. And you were actually ready to roll up your sleeves and implement this and knew that it was a cornerstone of our business being successful and actually start the work on it. And I think that was, I think that was one of the key elements to why we are working so well. And we have such big ambitions and plans, and they're moving in that direction, smoothly, because we took the time to really take action on that versus just talking about it. Because a lot of people will just give lip service to that. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we need to do these types of things, and we need to get those implemented." And I probably have had those conversations with other partners. I never had anybody that was willing to put in the work to do it and actually do it and carry it out. And I think that was a huge game changer with the success of our team.
Oh, 100%. I appreciate the kind words, but don't put it all on me because you as well. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I look at it, I was like, man, we've been hitting it since day -1. Like, like before we even like solidified that, all right, we're all gonna work under this entity together and we're not gonna separate this and this anymore. Let's just fully mesh and combine. Like we were already taking those action steps. And I almost feel like a huge pivot started to happen once because even and this goes for anybody here when you do start getting to that point, like you start building out the teams, you start maybe you bring on a partner, maybe you bring on a couple partners, and you just go full chaotic like we did. And um, you're still gonna have those moments where it's like you talk about it, you talk about it, you talk about it. Like we've had them too, even in between this, where it's like when we were adopting a new model, we spoke about things for 2 or 3 weeks, and then finally we looked at each other's like, all right, we talked about it. Now we need to actually, we need to do it. Like we need to implement this. We need to set the deadline. And I almost feel like the catalyst to making that change was starting to put things on paper and or like in a document in the drive. And I've noticed the shift now, like with everything, like including deal details or reports come back or anything like that. It's not like a verbal presentation anymore. Like those are going, they're in the drive and we're talking about it. We're pulling it up. We're reading it together. We're talking through it together. Um, so not only on the deal level, but I feel like that's highly and so important on the business level as well.
Agreed. Totally agree.
So I know we only have you for about 15 more minutes here. Um, did we want to open up the floor for Q&A, or do we want to let Jim go ahead and just talk about whatever he wants to talk about for the next 15 minutes?
Come on, no questions?
Nothing?
I
Nothing?
stayed
Brady.
up late, so
I was just gonna say, let him riff
What's
for
up,
5
Brady?
minutes.
been a while.
it's
Let
been a
him
hot
rip.
minute, bro.
Good
Yeah,
to
what
see you,
other
man.
things you want to share, man?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to go back to the point of the separation and the delineation between being a leader in a corporate environment versus in an entrepreneurial environment. And just touch on a couple of points there is there are some similarities, but one of the things that I struggled with was, it was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, right? I've been in real estate. I've been back in real estate for, a little bit over 3 years now. And there was that leadership factor of, questioning yourself. Is questioning yourself because you kind of, when everybody starts in real estate, you're kind of faking it till you make it, right? Everybody's like trying to, put on a front that they have all this experience, they have all this knowledge, blah blah blah, and just trying to make it through till you get that. And that was a little bit of a difficulty with my leadership within the team and within the company, because I had been a pharmacist for, over 25 years, so I knew the operation, I knew everything like the back of my hand. And I didn't have that in real estate. And, I have a very good, knowledge. I know what I'm talking about, but, there was not that experience level that was missing. And that really kind of threw me off a little bit with, translating that leadership. And fundamentally, there are differences because you have two totally different animals there, but your leadership is your leadership, and it's about the person. It's about where you're reaching your levels of leadership, versus actually what your knowledge base is. And I just want to kind of drive that point home is your leadership and your leadership style, and getting people on your team to to like truly follow you, because they believe in you and you believed in them. And it's not where, they're lower in the pecking order than you and they basically have to take direction from you. That doesn't always exist in an entrepreneurial aspect is, especially where you're, you're kind of unproven. If everybody understands where I'm kind of going with that is, you're kind of unproven yourself, and you're trying to lead people and bring them to want to follow you, to support them, to have them grow. And, it can throw you for a loop. And, the basic take home from that is it's your leadership. It's you as a person, and it's what you're doing in having other people grow around you. And what you can do to support them, whether you have been in the business for 25, 30 years, or whether you've been in it for like a couple of months. It really is the factor of you as a leader and your qualities and that, that drive to build other people up, it doesn't really, it doesn't really need to be a stunting of your own growth as a leader, just because you might not have that depth of experience. And that was something that I struggled with for a while. Actually, I know I've been giving kudos to James a lot, but I will give kudos to James on this because, he really helped me, battle through that. I mean, he truly did. He honestly did. And he was joking in the beginning of the Zoom. Some of you weren't here. He was saying I'm his little brother, but I'm like almost twice as old as James, and I've got a lot of experience under my belt, a lot of life experience, but he's much younger than me. But he really made a considerable dent in that where I was struggling with it, and really helped me to allow to break through that for the betterment of my team. And I'm really thankful for that, and I continue to learn from him. And it's a little bit humbling. I mean,
I'm almost
I'm
crying
50
over
years.
here.
I'm 50 years old. I'm 50 years old, and James is a considerably younger than me. But he's wise beyond his years, and that's a really good example of where your team and other people can help you break through things. And it's okay to struggle as a leader. It's okay to have areas where you're on shaky ground, but as long as you have partners and part of your team that you can go to as a sounding board and to help you get through that, that's one of the goals of your building your team, is to be able to have people on there like that. And you can't go into it with the mentality that you're one of the leaders on the team, and whatever you say goes. You're going to make the best decisions, everything, and you have to grow and learn with your other leaders and rely on them, and have them people with those right seats on the bus filled with people that are able to support you and bring you bring your own growth as a leader on the team to full fruition.
I really, really, really do. I'm not lying when I said I'm almost in tears over here. It's
No, it's the truth, brother.
honestly
It is.
to hear somebody say that, it's one of those, because I definitely strive, and like you're one of those ones, and we even talk, like I even mentioned it earlier. It's very few times that I put myself into situations or in conversations with people, and I strive for the ones that make me feel intimidated. And I spoke to somebody yesterday who made me feel intimidated at one point, but there was a point to where it was the same thing with you. Like you and I had a conversation, and I had felt intimidated at one point during some of our conversations. And it's not like in a bad way. It's like, holy shit, like I need to be speaking to this person a little bit more. I need to be doing shit. I need to collaborate with this person at some level. And then to be able to kind of like spin that table and really kind of pull that in, carry out those conversations, continue speaking. Like I kind of look back on it, and it's almost like that. What's that term? Imposter syndrome that they talk
Mhm.
about, which funny in itself to even say that term, because I don't even feel like it's a real thing, to be honest. It's just something we tell ourselves. But to strive to have conversations with people that almost make you feel like an imposter, you were that person for me at one point in time when we had spoken many moons ago. And this is where we are now. And I moved through that. So to know that you were somebody that I looked up to, and I'm also, in turn, somebody that you were looking up to, like really kind of drives that home. It drove that home for me. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, I appreciate that. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's very true with what I just said. It can be a very difficult thing for somebody who's carving themselves out as a leader on a team, is to not have that sense of confidence, and fundamentally it truly is who you are as a person and what you are doing for the team members around you. I mean, that's what it basically boils down to, is everybody is continually growing, right? And is to be able to, gain that support from your team members, but also to give that support to your team members. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the answers to everything. It doesn't mean that you have to be, all knowing in the wizard on the team. It's really how you are treating your team and what you're doing for them in order for them to be able to, look to that position themselves and to see where they want to grow to and whether they want to do it with you or not. That's one of the most important things is as you're building out your teams is just make sure that you have their best interest, number one, in mind. But also that you're just, you're honest and transparent and you are truly at heart looking to help them build and to grow and just carry on their own journey, is to make sure that, it's just how you're treating them. And it's not so much of, it's nice when you can, pass down information, pass down knowledge and teach them things. But, it doesn't have to be all about that. It's a very, very easy corner to get yourself painted into with kind of feeling that, what you refer to as the fictitious, imposter syndrome, but, it's real. And that's, that was something that I really struggled with in the beginning with being in this space because it wasn't my wheelhouse, and it's just, it's just something that you have to kind of work through and just, and better yourself while you're improving the rest of the team, and really leading them and giving them direction and, also getting direction from them, and it doesn't matter if it's somebody who's, a co-leader with you, or if it's somebody that's just on your team that's a clock puncher for you of whatever they're doing. You can learn from them and you can grow from having them in your business. Yeah, it's a fun road. It definitely is. And I continue to grow and I continue to, get better every single day. But, the space that we're in, it takes a lot of heart and soul, especially if you're somebody, like myself, that still has a W-2, that is still out there working, that is, this is, I don't want to say it's a side hustle because it's not a side hustle because I spend so much time in it, but, you have other priorities right now until you can get to the point where you can, leave your W-2 and really embed yourself and your passion in the business. And, I think that it's, coming to things like this, I think is instrumental, because it'll give you a very good framework of how to achieve those goals and how to get, to your next level and how you can get to the next steps on things, to really soar with your business. And the last thing that I'll say is, James and I had talked about how we had sat down and broken the business apart, and we really sat down and laid a good concrete foundation. And I just would suggest to everybody that as you're building your businesses, make sure that you go back and do that. And even if you have to just stop and go do that now rather than later, that is the basic building block of any successful business, is that your framework was already there. You can't start putting on the roof and you can't start, shingling the roof until your walls are up, and that relies on a firm foundation. And that was, like we were talking about before, that's probably one of the most important things that we have done to date with making sure that blueprint was in place. So that backbone is there with the business to carry us forward. Because there's always going to be shit that happens. It's always going to go sideways. We have properties that have gone sideways on us, like you read about, and you can deal with it because you have that framework of what are we going to do, according to our game plan, and not deviate off the road of, letting a small hiccup that, in hindsight, it'll probably be a very small hiccup, and not letting hiccups like that, because that's the business we chose. It's just shit's going to go sideways on you, but just knowing that concrete is there and that you can go back to the drawing board, you can go back to the basics of your blueprint to be able to get you through whatever you're trying to weather.
100%. That foundation is so important to
Mhm.
have that clarity on. It's I don't remember who said it or where I heard it from, but the analogy that I've heard in the past is you can always add a third story to a two-story house, but you can't build a skyscraper on the foundation of a single family home.
Mhm. Yep, and that's totally true. Because you really can't. If the foundational properties and elements of your business are not there, it doesn't matter how big you get, it doesn't matter how many millions of dollars you're making. That's a house of cards, and it's going to come down at some point. And as long as you build that firmly and you have a solid foundation, you know, you can do exactly what that quote says, is you can continue to build up and you have a very secure baseline that is, you know, basically anchoring you to that. So that would be one of my biggest takeaways if anybody's listening, is make sure that those foundations are in place and that you've properly executed them, because that is, that's going to bite you in the ass down the road, even if you're successful, that you don't have that in place.
100%. Couldn't have said that better myself, honestly. Jimbo in here dropping bombs tonight.
Dropping bombs. George. I love George.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Now, good stuff, guys. Is all hitting, and obviously it's learning. Like saying having that transparency of excuse my language, when shit hits the fan or you're going through struggles, and being vulnerable enough to share that with somebody else, and having the I guess a space to do it, to where like, hey, it's all right to feel bad. We all thought this coming in and going through different partnerships and thinking this, and do I say something like, oh man, that mofo, he barely knows a little bit more than me, so he's just a chapter ahead of me. And so yeah, but good stuff about setting the foundation, kind of using everything and not being afraid to go back. And that's something I've been sharing with James, as far as realizing, I'm doing wholesaling, but it seems like I'm doing a lot more just JV. And it's like, but this is costing more, and this one's costing less. So what should I do? And it goes back to like gross and net. And yeah, but stuff you said this evening, you can start a mentorship gym in a couple of years.
Stop
I love
spilling the
it.
beans, bro. Stop spilling the beans. No, I'm just kidding. No, Jimbo and I still have to have a couple conversations revolving around a few things. So keep your guys' eyes peeled. I do want to be very, very respectful of your time, Jim. I do appreciate being able to snag you for an hour tonight. I know it's not something that's normal, and before the end of the year, we will have it to where it is normal. Jim and I will be tag teaming Zooms with everybody all the time, and
I love it.
we'll be able to
I
get there.
absolutely love it.
But I know that you do have some designated time that you have to go take care of and enjoy with the family before your weekend comes. So I know it's easy. We can get carried away in conversations, and we have for 20 minutes, half hour, 45 over our time. But given the situation, I definitely want you to make sure that you get that quality time in.
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate that. Yeah, if any of you guys have questions or want to ping something off me, my contact information is right up there. Most of I run an underwriting Zoom on Mondays. But if it's anything with leadership, anything with kind of the business structure, and you just want to talk, I'm always open, and would be happy to answer any questions. If you just don't want to ask in front of the group and just want to ask them privately, I'm here. I'm always available as a resource.
But not too much, because he's mine. Back off. I'm just kidding. That being said, though, for those of you that do come in typically to the Thursdays, I try to keep the tactical around an hour long, and then we move into like the after hours. So anybody that does want to stick around, does have additional questions or things that they'd like to talk about, we can go ahead and stay on, and we can kind of go through that. And Jim, I really, really do appreciate your time again today, brother. I was so stoked when you told me the other day that you were able to come on.
Yeah, no, I thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to see some familiar faces, but also meet some new. It was a pleasure. I hope that I provide at least a little bit of value for everybody. And like I said, reach out anytime. I'm always open for a call and making a connection and helping you out any way that I can. Definitely stay with my man James. This guy is incredible. He really is. Like his tactical knowledge and his business knowledge is all of his integrator knowledge. I mean, that guy is the shit when it comes to being an integrator. He is one of the best that I've ever seen in the business. So just make sure that you
I appreciate it.
stick with him and keep marching on with him because he's a diamond. He really is.
I appreciate it.
Have a
Yeah,
good
you're
night,
gonna make me
guys.
cry a second
Appreciate
time
having me.
tonight.
Later, Jim.
All right, love you
Love-
guys.
Bye, Jim.
Love you, brother.
Nice to see you, bro.
See Good to see you, Grady. We got to catch up, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, hit me up anytime. My phone's
All
always
right,
open
I'd love
to
to
you,
see what
brother.
you're doing. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Love you, brother.
Love you.
I did not expect to almost cry in front of everybody tonight, but there it is. It happened. As I'm looking right at Grady's face.
You just needed to twist those heartstrings a little bit more, and we would have got the waterfalls.
Well, I wiped one away real quick. I'm like, get out of here, you.
I'm a man.
Oh, brother. Love it.
That was great. I'm disappointed I missed the first half.
Well, I
It's
will be getting the
recorded.
recording up. Yep, I'll be getting that up on my YouTube. I have to get you my link, brother, because you've missed a couple videos I got going on there.
Yeah,
I have a couple to catch up. I have a couple more podcasts I have to get up there too.
please do.
I've been a busy guy. But yeah, no, I definitely appreciate everybody coming. And like I said, anybody that, if you do have time restraints, I know I definitely appreciate you guys lending your time on a Thursday evening coming in. For those of you that are in here for the first time, you definitely picked a wonderful first Zoom to come in on, being able to have Jim. He's been, man, out of all of the people that I've worked with or attempted to work with over the last going on 4 years now, he's been a solid rock to everything that you guys have been able to see going out. A lot of things that I've worked through, the challenges and the successes that I talk about, even within our business. So when I'm talking to you guys about, I mean, even to the Align framework that I ended up putting together, like it's just been a cornerstone of him being there to work through all of this with me, to get through that and to fast track. Sorry, a little bit of a reverb there.
Too much sauce.
But yeah, yeah, he's played a huge part of me being able to bounce these ideas back and forth and actually implement some of these strategies and really being able to fine tune what I put together. He's been a huge help with that.
Like it a lot.
That's good, bro. It's obviously you had to go through I think it was with a gap in the game where we had to sometimes, go through shit or, kind of climb that mountain and realize, well, I'm not really the book I'm saying, but as far as going through different relationships, just like on a personal side, for the ones that do have that special someone and finding that version on the business side to be able to equal you out or
100%.
do the opposite stuff that you don't like to do. Or if I'm the softie, she's the hard ass and giving me tips on, how to have more of a backbone and vice versa. Hey, babe, chill out. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think that works out with cold calling or speaking with people that is just trying to get the job done at the end of the day.
No, 100%. And it's crazy to think about too, because one of the thing that we had, sorry, my phone was blowing up too. Jim was so excited to be able to come in and talk to you guys. I basically like I was trying to boot him off because we can go into a conversation where we'll go for
Yeah.
another hour, and I know that I want him to spend time with his family.
Oh yeah.
But that's one of those things that again was a game changer that we had talked about, was that clarity and the understanding and being able to put together a foundation of what are your values, what are your goals, what is it that you even want to be doing in real estate, and then understanding even like the core processes, um, and like how the business should look, being able to come with that clarity when you're speaking to prospective partners and or prospective people in your business. If you're a visionary, if you're going to look for an integrator, and I've harped on in every Zoom, like be intentional and tell people who you are and what you're working on. Um, but to have a little bit more like in-depth clarity on what it is that you're doing and where you're going will, and I can almost promise you will be able to streamline those difficulties that you go through when you're looking for those integrators, when you're looking for those people to come into your business. That was kind of the catalyst for us. When I had gone to, obviously I spoke to Haley first because happy wife, happy life. Those husbands in here know you got to talk to the wife first about everything. That's where the final decision really comes from. But when I went to talk to her about reaching out to Jim and Jeff and talking to them about a potential partnership or working together, she's like, "It's funny you say that, and I thought you'd never ask." Um, the difference this time, because again, I've known Jim as long as I've been in sub two, so we've had conversations a lot over a couple of years, and we've bounced ideas back and forth. Like, was it 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, we were going to start a similar to the systems thing. We were going to create like this really good CRM, and go the tech side of it. And it just kind of didn't really go anywhere. Neither one of us were clear. But when we had the second conversation, business conversation, I should say, I already went through, like, I already know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. I knew he knew where he was going. He knew what he wanted to do. So we kind of cut like all of that out of the conversation, like trying to figure it out. And it streamlined that entire process. When we had first started working together for that first month, you know, we had that little bit of that dating phase. So it's like, okay, you have these leads coming in, we have these leads coming in. Jeff's reaching out to those wholesalers for feedback, but who's reaching out to yours? So don't ever get it wrong. Like, those conversations, they were there. But as we really started getting into it and like really meshing those values, meshing those goals, meshing those processes, it just turned into like, let's just fully mesh one unit, and that's how we're going to operate moving forward. I'm hoping my headphones didn't just die.
No, you're good.
Still hear
I
you,
can still
bro.
hear you, but I don't know if you can hear us.
I guess
Good.
it's time for us to take over.
Right.
They did. I'm going to have to switch over to the speaker here.
So what over this conversation for you guys, what was one of the biggest takeaways that you got from everything that James and Jim were talking about that you can take home and either put into action or utilize to move yourself forward?
I was kind of like you, Gray, that caught it towards the end, but the fact of knowing Jim for a little bit and seeing his confidence go, especially on Mondays, knowing that once you're comfortable doing what you're doing, and you can rely on other people doing the rest of the quote unquote work, or the pipeline, it frees you up and helps you out, while everybody else is free to do what they're doing, and then being responsible for that one task and integrating it or growing it and figuring out. And obviously, let's say, going back to the original goal, at the end of the day, what is that plan? Are we still on track? And obviously having that accountability but being able to say I messed up, but not saying George, you suck, get out of here. No, hey George, how can we work on that? You know, how can we make that better, or what do you need from us? And
Yeah.
that was my
Where
takeaway.
was it that where can I improve to help you improve even more? I love that aspect. That's
Facts.
huge for me. And I for me, I find I need that reiterated to myself many times throughout the
Right.
week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's sorry, my headphones did die, so I was waiting for my speaker to turn back on. I didn't realize it unplugged to connect back, so I missed a small portion of that. But I did cut in right at the right time. Dude, what you just said there was very important, like the having to remind yourself like where can I improve? Um, that's one of those big things. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about like when it comes to teams, when it comes to their business, and like things are happening and people drop off and they say like, "Oh, I realized the problem was me," but not really actually diving deep into understanding that and seeing like, well, where was it really that I was messing up? Was I not enough of a hard ass? Was I too much of a hard ass? Like that's something completely different. Like one of the big pivots that have changed, and you know, even between Jim and I, like in the very beginning, one of the pivots that I had to make early on within our business was like, it wasn't how can I motivate him a little bit more. It's like, hey, how could I provide resources that I have and just kind of like nudge that over there to him, like, hey, with this area, like, I don't want to be the one that comes in and be like, you need to watch this and you need to read this and you need to do that. Because what I have found over 3 years of thinking that I was this amazing closer and I can, I could close sellers all day long. Well, it turns out I can't. And I had probably 30 people tell me that the problem was me, not the data and not the leads. But I was still, no, the problem's the data, the problem's the leads. I'm great with people. I get them laughing. We have 3, 4 phone calls. We'll be on the phone for 2 hours long. And there was one person, Justin Tumanowski, was the one that said it to me. He's like, if you're making all those calls, you're having all those hours of conversations, and you only did one wholesale deal, you're the problem. So I look at the same way now in my business. I'm not always going to be the one that resonates with the people in my business. I'm not always going to be the one that resonates with the partners. And I'm not always going to be the one that resonates with those that I'm trying to, coach or mentor or teach any of this. And you have to become comfortable with that at some point and have that understanding and really kind of like look deep into it. It's like, okay, well, maybe I did push a little bit too much on trying to make sure that they knew what they're getting themselves into. Maybe I should have just gave them the resource. One of my favorite stories is the underwriter. Before Jim, Jeff, Haley, and I started working together, I had an underwriter. I can't underwrite worth a damn. Like you asked me to deep analyze a deal, it ain't gonna happen, bro. Like I'm probably gonna get you to buy a shit deal, to be honest. But my prospective partner was the one that was good at that. So when my underwriter was like, hey, like I'm second guessing numbers, I could have easily gone and learned how to underwrite and then came back and micromanaged what he was doing and like you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you need to change this. Like why are you underwriting for this extra strategy when we don't do that? And instead of doing that, I was like, all right, well, it's not my expertise. I have no authoritative voice to this person when it comes to underwriting. So the next best thing I can do is provide a resource. Oh, I know a goat at underwriting. I can link them up, have them have a conversation. And then the next thing you know, he's happily learning deeper into the skill and how to underwrite. And then they're jumping on Zooms weekly now. And I'm just continuing doing what I'm doing. He's learning, he's getting his skill. I'm not micromanaging him, I'm not bossing him around or anything like that.
No, that's awesome. And that's one thing that I got to learn the hard way within all that, right? Is how to have those conversations with team members and how to approach that conversation in a way where either, being comfortable saying, yeah, I can help you out, but I'm not the person you want to have help you out on this.
Yeah.
Like, I can go and learn it. I can go and do that. Anyone can go and learn anything. But like, am I the right person to go and learn it and to help us through this problem? Probably not.
100%. Not everybody realizes that. They don't realize that about themselves either. Like I said, it took 31 people to tell me something for the 31st person to say it for it to actually sink in.
Finally click in.
And it's
Yeah.
not even sink in. It was just the 31st person was the right person to tell me.
Kind of like working with Jim and the other guys you mentioned. You had to go through those other versions until you got the right piece, like a puzzle piece. You got that circle and the whatever shape's not fitting. Then you're like, why am I fighting this? And let me just see where I fit in and eventually find that right person. Just like find Haley
Oh, 100%.
and Jim.
But without
and
that,
Jeff.
honestly, without that clarity, you don't even know where you can fit in. Like that's one of those things, honestly. And that was a learning experience, a learning curve, even for us as we got together and really started like shaping this thing out, is we realized that we had a level of clarity on where we wanted to go. And I've mentioned this before. Like Jim and I had sat down and had about a half an hour conversation because we knew that we both had integrator visionary tendencies. So it's like, well, we can't both sit in both of those seats. So one person's going to have to do one person's going to have to do the other. We're going to have to kind of figure this out, figure out what that looks like. Because if we're going to continue to move forward with this, with the business, and like we're not clear about that, we don't have that set in stone, we're going to have issues along the way. And it's not like it's going to be we're cursing each other out and there's finger pointing or anything like that. It's just it's not clearly defined. So we had that conversation and decided like, okay, I'm sitting in the visionary, you're sitting in the integrator, we'll support each other, we'll be able to support everybody else. But a majority of that clarity we had before we even came into this partnership. Right. I knew what my values were. I knew what values I looked for in people that I allow to influence me and mentor me and coach me. And to a point, to a degree, you start to kind of adopt those values as well. So I knew how I was navigating before we went into that partnership. So I knew that if I was looking for somebody to work with, they had to be trustworthy. They had to operate at some level of integrity, and there had to be room for collaboration there. Like I'm not going to go talk to somebody who wants to be a lone wolf. Obviously, that's not going to make a great partnership. But having that clarity, having that understanding makes it so much easier. I harp on intentionality all the time, and that's just going through that trek and going through those rungs and getting honest with yourself, seeing where you sit, seeing what you do have, seeing what you don't have, what can I fit into those spaces for the stuff that I don't have. This is what I can do. This is what I'm good at doing. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what I don't enjoy doing. This is how I operate. This is what my goals are for the next 10, 20 years. This is where I'd like to see myself in a year. All of that carries over because that should be something that's discussed within the first couple conversations that you have with somebody that you're having a conversation with, that you're looking for a partnership. And I look back, and in the beginning, those weren't the caliber conversations that I was having when I was trying to look for a partner, or I was, looking for people to partner with. It was more like, oh yeah, you're wholesaling great, me too. Oh, what markets are you working in? Oh, great, dude. Yeah, no, I definitely would love to hit that market a little bit more. All right, dude. Yeah, I got a bunch of data that's sitting in my computer. We just have to get skip trace. You wanna split the cost? All right, great, dude. Let's do it. I got the CRM. Let me build it out. Like I'll build it out. We'll jump on calls. You can jump on calls. We'll split costs. 3 weeks in, I'm building the CRM. I'm doing the cold calling. I'm doing the follow up. I'm trying to close. And Nobody was paying me the portion, so it was all coming out of my wife in my pocket. But I wasn't clear. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what my goals were. I didn't know the types of people I needed to be looking for. I didn't know how to navigate those initial conversations past, yeah, love it. We're in the same Facebook groups. Yeah, we're in real estate. Yeah, we want to wholesale. All right, let's go. I really had to start to kind of, get clear and dial it in. Quit bringing back that trauma.
The PTSD. Ah,
Yeah,
it's like
Oh, but
I
dude,
feel
kinda
like that's
cooking.
something that you can't help but go through in this process.
right.
I mean,
Oh,
I did the
100%.
same thing. And then I was a part of doing the same thing to somebody else until the realization hit like, I don't want to be that guy. What am I doing? Go back, hey man, I got to make this up to you. Let's get to work.
Right.
So,
we learn so much about ourselves as we go through those processes, and it's not like we just sat down and we're like, all right, yeah, these are our core values. I mean, include the framework that was put together is like there's exercises that we went through. Like we did a full on assessment. Yeah, we knew we had some systems going in the business, but we really had to take a look at, like, there's 5 different areas that we had to run through and grade and score and see where we sat to see where we really needed to be focusing. Um,
so do you have assessments that you would recommend to us to go through with teammates or partners?
I actually have one, and I know Haley will probably blast my Calendly link out, but I've been doing a business assessment. I've had a couple calls already. I have one tomorrow. I've got another one Monday. So I've opened up my calendar for these couple weeks to actually jump on and go through an in-depth business assessment. And if you do have any questions about it at all, Ron Morrow would be a great person to speak um, to ask him about that. Or you can just schedule directly on my Calendly.
Haley,
And
Haley, I believe in you, Haley.
give me 1 second. She's like, for once, I don't have it.
It'll be in the Facebook group or something at some